Power Project crew, what's going down? This is a huge day for us in the podcast. Although we've had Eddie Hall on in the past, and then we've had times where we were going to have him on the podcast in person, but schedules just didn't work out. On this day, it finally did. And just in case you don't know who Eddie Hall is the 2017 World's Strongest Man winner. He is the world record deadlift holder right now at 500 kilos. Or for us in the States, that's 2 pounds over 1,100 pounds, which is insane. Again, he's the only human being that's been able to do that. He's also been featured on History Channel's Strongest Man in History TV show. And overall, he's just one of the best dudes we've ever had on the podcast. Eddie is such a likable guy. You guys will see throughout the video, we just all have such a gigantic smile because he's making us laugh. He's telling us so much good information. We had a blast podcasting with Eddie Hall. We get into kind of a bit of his origin story about how he caught a big break and was able to compete full time and start striving to be the world's strongest man. We also asked him about the mindset that he had to get into in order to deadlift 1,100 pounds or 500 kilos. And although he doesn't openly share exactly what he was talking about, we kind of got an idea of where he had to go. And it was kind of a dark place, but he explains that, that's what he had to do in order to be able to lift such a heavy load. He also went into detail and explained why he is the world's strongest man, the strongest man to ever walk this earth. And after he gives his reasonings, I don't think anybody has any legit arguments against it. Thank you so much, Eddie, for making this happen. And real quick, I'll get out of your guys' way so we can start this episode. But thank you to Piedmontese Beef. You guys know it is the absolute best beef in the universe. We, like I said earlier, we went to some amazing steakhouses when we were on this trip in Columbus. Unfortunately, none of them can hang with Piedmontese steaks. I know what that sounds like, but trust me, as soon as I got home, I cooked up some flat iron steaks, and I easily compared the two, and they're night and day difference. Piedmontese steaks taste so much better. It's really remarkable what they're able to do. What's even better is you guys can actually get them for 25% off. Head over to Piedmontese.com right now. That's Piedmontese.com. At checkout, enter promo code POWERPROJECT for 25% off your order. And if your order is $99 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Thank you again, Eddie Hall. If you guys are digging this episode, maybe if you heard something that he's never said before, hit him up on social media. We'll have his links down in the YouTube description and the show notes. Let him know what you think. Let us know what you think, and we'll catch you guys later. Enjoy the show.
All right, Mr. Hall. So you have you won the world's strongest man, and then you walked away from the sport in some respects, right? Yeah. And now you still yeah. We're good to go. Yeah. Ready, and go. Tell us all about yourself now. So you retired from strongman, going out on top, but you still compete, right?
No, fully retired. So, I do bits and bobs.
Exhibitions and stuff like that?
Exhibitions, appearances, but yeah, you won't see me compete in actual strongman again. I might come back and do the odd team show, but I'm not interested in coming back and seeing what I can do myself, because I've been there, done the pinnacle. That's all I wanted. Didn't want anything else.
Yeah, pushed yourself as hard as you could. What's the difference in body weight? What'd you weigh when you were competing versus what you weigh now?
So at my biggest, I was just shy of 440 pounds. Like, that's around about the time I won the world's strongest man.
He speaks our language. He talks in pounds too.
Thank goodness.
Dumbs it down for us.
Right now, sitting about 385, and just like a nice comfy weight. Keeping the size, keeping the brand, but able to walk about without chafing, not out of breath, can climb stairs, put my own socks on, those kind of things. So it's a much better quality of life at this weight.
What'd you do to lose weight? Anything in particular?
So for initially, just cut the carbs out and went very sort of keto. And then I found that wasn't very sustainable. Started getting ill quite a bit after about a year, and then I've just slowly sneaked carbs back in. So I do sort of timed carbs. So I'll just have carbs before training, during training, little bit of dinner, little bit in the evening, so a bit more control with the carbs. That's all.
What's a little bit for you, by the way? Just,
each meal, you're probably talking like 200 gram of carbs, maybe 300. Yeah. And that's very low. Yeah, competing, you'd be talking a kilo of carbs a meal. getting up towards, yeah.
And this is how many times a day?
What now?
Yeah, just 3-4 times a day, whatever's convenient for you.
Yeah,
kinda?
probably meal-wise, I probably eat about six
Okay.
decent-sized, portions a day.
Still getting after it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
And then, not a lot of people know this, but it's been documented a little bit. You have a swimming background. And how long, like, when did you start swimming?
So I started swimming when I was 5 years old. My two older brothers were part of a swimming team. And my mum was a swimming teacher, so I was chucked in the pool at 2. So basically learned to swim at 2. And then age 5, obviously, couldn't really be left at home alone. So when the brothers were training, I would go and join in, do the swimming galas at the weekends, and became somewhat obsessed with the competitive side of the swimming. Mainly just because I hated my brothers beating me, but when you're that age, someone that's a year older can be a huge side difference. So it was a lot. They had a massive advantage, and I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I was coming home like, what can I do to get faster, stronger, training harder. And by the time I was 10, I won the national championships, and that entered me into what they call the World Potential Squad. So basically the GB team for the juniors. And I was in the GB squad for the best part of 3 years, and then told the head coach to go fuck himself, and off I went.
Why'd you tell him to go fuck himself?
It just became... So because it became very sort of Olympic standard, you were seeing you had to do so many hours, so many lengths, so many, kilometers a week in the pool. And I was a sprinter, even though I won the 50 meters to the 1500 meters, my specialty was sprinting, like 50 meters explosive power. And this head coach just got it in his head that, volume is key for swimming. So I ended up going from swimming, 10K a week to then swimming 30K a week. And it just became unenjoyable for me. And for a 13-year-old kid, staring at the bottom of a swimming pool for X amount of hours a week was not fun. So, I was a deviant child, very misbehaved, and kept getting in trouble. And then I think it was one day he had a stupid. It was very military. I had a stupid black tick system. So if you got 3 black ticks, you were sent home, and if you answered back, you got a black tick. If you were late for a training session, you got a black tick. And of course, day 1 of this black tick system, I got 3 black ticks. Head coach wants to see you in the office, and I said, I tell you what, tell that fat cunt to go fuck himself. I'm off. And that was literally me at 13 years old, like, just fuck off. I'm not interested. And that was it, done.
Why do you think you were like that? Upbringing, or just you wanted to challenge things? Or
I just think that if something was something was working, like if your radio's working in your car, would you take it apart and start fucking adding bits to it? And, you wouldn't, would you? And I think that was my main sort of grievance with the swimming it was working. My times were going up constantly. And then this head coach came along and just dragged me right back down. And I couldn't do anything about it, because my coach at home was being told, he had to do this, had to do that. And if you didn't, then you were chucked off the squad and your swimmer. So I was basically forced to do this huge amounts of volume that I didn't need to do for my specialty, a 50 minutes freestyle.
In terms of, you mentioned you had 3 brothers, right?
2
brothers. Yeah. Were they as athletic as you are? Because usually that tends to run in the family.
Yeah, James and Alex, they've both been very athletic. James went to the nationals. Alex didn't quite make it, but he's always been in sport. He's made a whole life out of sport, doing physiotherapy and teaching the PT courses and stuff. James ended up being a professional rugby player at a high level, played for the Falcons, and then ended up in Bristol for the last part of his career. Buggered his knee, and now he's another retired athlete in the whole household. So, but yeah, we've all. Mum as well. My mum's hell sporty. She does. She used to do the full Ironmans. So when you do like the 5K swim, the 100K bike ride, and then a full marathon at the end. She used to do the full Ironmans up until probably 2 years ago, and she's 58 now. So the whole family is very sporty, definitely. We've all pretty much made our careers out of sport in some respect. Yeah.
What's it like to be part of a TV show? You spend your whole life, working towards this 1,100-pound deadlift. You spend your whole life wanting to be world's strongest man, and you got a lot of recognition for that, especially in your hometown. But then people aren't going to know you the same way they're going to know you, or you won't get the exposure unless you get on like a TV show like you guys did. what has that been like? And do you like it, or do you kind of like halfway resent it because you're like, man, like I'm more than like what we're able to portray on the show?
It was a tough one. I mean, you know about the strongest man in history?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was a great show. I think the History Channel aren't doing a season 2. And I think the main reason is, you know, only 5% of the population sort of train, you know, keep fit, keep healthy, you know, eat properly. That's sort of stats. That's the way it is. So I saw it as only 5% of the population are pretty much going to watch the show. And then how many percent of that 5% actually give a shit about strength sports? Not that many. So I think it did the rounds in the strength world, but I think in the general public, from what I gather, feedback from the UK, no one really bothered with it. Where I think, so in the UK, I mean, I won the UK Strongest Man in 2010, and that's been a televised event since, 2011. And every year I've won UK Strongest Man, kept adding to the accolade. And I suppose that fame's just slowly and slowly just crept up very nicely over the years. It's not like overnight won Big Brother and, you know, become famous. It's been a very nice gradual thing. And I suppose I've become very acclimatized to it. You know, in the UK, I'm a household name in the UK. I literally cannot go shopping. Can't take my kids out. Can't do family days out. It is ridiculous. And to be honest with you, it gets on my tits. Like the fame is hard.
We can see the pressure on your tits from here.
Being in the limelight is really hard. Like there's no off switch. You're constantly. I could show
you didn't really set out for that necessarily.
Not necessarily.
You probably enjoy some of it, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I knew it was going to come with the territory. You know, you want to be the world's strongest man. You're going to be famous whether you like it or not. But I suppose that the TV shows have added to that. You know, I've also done my own TV show in the UK called Eddie Eats America. We've just sold to. Actually, I shouldn't say nothing, but it's airing in the States very soon on a big channel. So you know, it's just a little bits like that, just keep adding on and keep getting more and more sort of recognizable. It's part of the territory. It's just something you've got to handle. If you don't handle it well, then you know you're not gonna do well. You're not going to make money out of it. So I just take it in my stride, take it as it comes. I'm always try and be super respectful with the fans, but you know, that's not replicated back.
Yeah. How do you manage it? You know, you said you really can't go to the grocery store. So if you need to do something, how do you get it done?
I just have to blunt the force. You know, if I need to go to the shopping, I grab my shopping cart, get in there. You know, I do my pictures and autographs, but you have
to be prepared for that mentally going in. You gotta.
What could be a 10-minute shop takes me half an hour, and that's the reality of it. You know, everything takes me so much longer because you know I'll go get a box of cereal, picture, pick up a carton of milk, picture, get the butter, picture. It's like it's just non-stop. Honestly, I mean, I've learned a lot from Arnold Schwarzenegger, from hanging with Arnold quite a bit, and you know, he put it in perspective to me once. You know, you can be as rich, as famous as you want, but if you don't give back to the fans, then what have you got really? And Arnold loves his life, absolutely loves his life, and you see all these celebs that don't love their life. You know, the rich, the famous, they've got everything you ever want, but they don't enjoy the life. And Arnold does, and I think there's a massive takeaway from that. Is he's just like, go with the flow. You know, if someone wants a picture, do a picture. If you want off time, get your security to give you off time. It's there's always ways around things just to make sure you're comfortable in life, and I suppose that's the key, really, making sure that you're happy. If you're not happy, then make yourself happy. You know, change something.
And what does your family think about all the fame and not being able to go to the damn grocery store?
I mean, obviously the wife and kids are fine. You know, they obviously don't get recognised like I do, but when they're with me, they hate it. Absolutely hate it. You know, I took my kids to like a wildlife safari in the UK where you drive through, meet the animals, and then you go to a park. The drive-through was fine. And then when we hit the theme park, you know, it was like a dinosaur roller coasters and all that. And I was there 30 minutes and we had to leave because every 5 seconds someone's coming up, can I have a picture? Like, no, mate, I'm on a family day out. But that might seem innocent. Like it might take you 3-4 seconds to say no to someone. But when it's one after the other, after the other, after the other, you get 100 meters and you've had to stop and tell 5 or 6 people each time to say, I can't do a picture with you because I'm with my family. And then your family get upset. my son literally couldn't enjoy the theme park. We had to leave because I was getting that molested at the theme park. It's ridiculous.
And then it just puts you in a bad situation where that one fan now is going to be like, dude, Eddie's a dick.
That's the thing. You can't win.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
can be as polite as you can be. You can say, listen, man, I'm so sorry. I'm with my family. I don't want to upset my kids.
But it's only going to be 2 seconds.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's everyone. Everyone just thinks it's just them. Like, oh, it's only me asking. No one else was asking for a picture.
Everybody, listen up for a second here. Make sure your fucking phone's not on video. Like, be set. Get your shit shit ready. Oh wait, I just took a picture of myself, or it's like, on, and they somehow the camera or the phone always goes to the most retarded person in the room.
It does.
It's like, can we hand it to someone who's not 100 years old that knows how to operate the goddamn thing? And they're trying to get different angles, and they get it on portrait mode. You're like, all right, settle down. You already got
that. Does bubble my piss. You're taking time out your day to do a picture of someone and hand it to grandma, and grandma's taking selfies, and
it turns into a photo shoot.
Oh god, yeah, that's not nice. But there you go.
Oh man. But for you, it provides you guys with a life that is probably different than it was maybe 6 or 7 years ago for you. So you got to kind of take the good with the bad, right?
That's exactly it. I appreciate the fans. I love to give back, but there's got to be that off time, and I'm afraid when you're out in public, there is no off time. So you've got to,
there's nowhere to hide for, what I mean?
Well, that's it. I mean, I'm like yourself, mate. I've got a nice big house, nice secure, and I just have to lock myself away from the world, keep my family safe, and do our own things. Really, if we go for a meal out, I have to warn the restaurants. Can you please keep people away from me? And I'm on a date with the wife, and if we go to theme parks now, I'll have to hire security just to come with, just to batten people off, just to say he's not doing pictures. Otherwise, I spend my whole day doing it myself. Nights out, I can't, I have to have close protection. Not for protection, but just to keep people away from me, so I can actually have an evening. That's the point it's got to.
How did you meet your wife?
So I ran a lot of the security in my hometown. So, pubs and nightclubs and everything. And, I think I was just doing the rounds one night, just paying the wages, and, bumped into another wife, and I had a bit of a hot tub party back at my place. So. Lucky little sausage she was.
And the rest is history.
That's it, yeah.
How long you guys been together for?
So we're 2020. We met probably around about this time in 2010. So, 10 years, been married 8 years, coming up this year. So, yeah.
You guys got some Netflix shows you're into? You get a chance as a family to sit down and watch some TV. I mean, it's probably hard because you travel a lot.
We try, probably from sort of 8 p.m. onwards every night. But, we try to, sort of phones down. It's me and her. But that phone's always going off. It's hard not to be like, oh, I've just got to reply to this guy. Mm-hmm. And then 5 minutes later, I've just got to reply to this guy. And it does happen, It's a very, I've actually just, as of next month, I've got a full-time PA. So just to handle shit like that, just to give me that time back with the family. TV-wise, sorry. We just watch the odd series, like Stranger Things, and I honestly, I couldn't tell you. We try and find the odd film.
What about like some of these reality TV shows? What's one you guys are talking about?
Love is Blind.
Love is what?
Blind. Love is blind.
No,
hey, don't start it. Just
is
stay
it like
away. It gets you in,
like a dating show or something?
My wife's watching it all the time, but I haven't really.
It's a great train wreck to watch.
There's something in the UK called Love Island. Have you heard that?
I've heard of it.
Oh my
God,
God,
I have a friend that watches that.
Absolute fucking god.
Is that where they put people on an island together or whatever? Right?
It's basically people that are like 10 out of 10s. Like proper.
Yeah.
Gorgeous people, put them in an island together, all single, and I think they have to partner up with somebody. And if you're not partnered up with somebody, then you have to leave. So you almost they're forced to be with somebody on the island. Yeah. And they just sit there and talk absolute garbage. But my wife is just like glued to it.
What are some maybe weird things that people might not think that Eddie Hall would do? Like, are you sitting there watching like Real Housewives of Orange County and like getting into it, or is there anything like that?
You know what I love doing? If I ever get like half a day or a few hours, Call of Duty. Just sitting.
And you go online and everything and blow people up.
And my username, well, fuck it. Username Eddie Hall WSM.
Yes.
And the amount of friend requests and messages is hilarious.
Do you get a lot of people like, dude, you don't even sound like Eddie Hall.
Yeah,
this is
so,
bullshit.
I'll be on the speakers, I'll be talking to people, I'm like, go left, go right, shit, go behind you, And then somebody will be like, are you fucking the real Eddie Hall? And I'll be like, yeah, I'm the real Eddie. Like, no way, prove it. I'm like, how?
Eddie Hall wouldn't play Call of Duty.
I know, and then,
he's too busy deadlifting.
And I'd be like, what's your Instagram account? And I'll just follow him. And they're like, no fucking way. It's quite funny. And they're all like, 30. Well, not you get like 30-year-old men, but you get 10-year-old kids as well. But it's always the old, the sort of 30-year-old guys that are like fucking obsessed.
Man, the little kids, they talk a lot of shit on there.
Oh fuck yeah!
So much shit. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I've been ready to like travel across the country to go and rip some little kid's head off because he called me a douchebag for getting killed.
What about movies? You have too much shit going on. You got another show coming, but we were talking about it yesterday. Like, you would be the best villain ever because you'd be like one of the guys that you kind of almost root for.
Yeah. There's quite a few things in the pipeline, and again, it's all under contract, so I can't say too much. Have you seen Falling Down with Michael Douglas?
Yeah.
So
that's like one of my favorite movies.
Right.
I love that movie.
Good. So I've basically been commissioned a lead role in a film, and it's basically the UK version of Falling Down.
Oh, no way.
Dude, congrats.
So,
Heck yeah.
Yeah, pretty big deal.
Falling Down is it's kind of like a middle-aged man who just like everything just comes unglued all at the same time.
Yeah.
And you just watch his life kind of spiral down. No. But he does everything that everyone would want to do. But never does because they would get in trouble. There's a scene in the movie where he's on like a golf course and somebody says something to him and he takes their golf cart and he crashes it on purpose. Like he crashes it, or he just puts it in like neutral and shoves it down a hill and it goes into a pond. And then the old guy on the golf court, or on the golf course, and he's like holding his heart.
Yes.
And he like falls down and he can't breathe. And he said, now you're going to fucking die in those stupid pants. Because he's wearing like checkered, golf pants. It's a weird movie, but it's
the
fun.
best one is when he goes to, is it a Wendy's or something? Yeah. And there's a picture of like a beautiful burger in the back. He's like, I want that burger. And it comes out and it's like a sloppy pile of shit. And he's like, what the fuck is this fucking shit? Pulls out a gun. You motherfuckers! You always fucking ripping me off.
Yeah, he just it's just all this stuff surmounts and then he just like loses it, completely loses it.
Yeah. So I'm basically doing that, like a UK version of that, based in and around Manchester, sort of in the suburbs. Gist of the story is a man that's sort of absolutely, because of the Brexit, absolutely surrounded with sort of immigration. Works with immigrants, works for an immigrant, loses his job to an immigrant, gets in a fight, loses his sight to immigrants. But then it all twists around and he's in hospital and basically in this fight gets acid thrown in his face. And then falls in love with an immigrant, with a doctor. And then obviously when he gets his sight back, it's like, oh fuck, what have I done sort of thing. But it doesn't matter because it's like what's on the inside. But then the twist again is this like the flick switch moment is when she's killed by an immigrant and then it's rampage time. Everyone dies.
This makes me feel like Black Mirror.
Yeah.
It's very Black Mirror-ish.
Love is Blind mixed with Black Mirror.
Yeah. I'm curious about this because you met your wife in 2010. You were a competing strongman at that time, right?
That was like I won England's Strongest Man in 2010.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard you talk about how much like the competitions took in terms of time from the family. And obviously, I'm guessing year by year you spent more time concentrating until I heard you mention that there was a time that you only saw your kids maybe 1 to 2 hours a day,
a week. Yeah.
So how did she get okay with that? Because at the beginning, I'm guessing it wasn't like that, but then it just continued until you reached the pinnacle. How did that evolve?
It was tough. I mean, when we first met, it was like, I had the ambition to be the world's strongest man. I set the goal at 19, told everyone, it was all over my social media. Everyone knew I was chasing this dream. And, she was with me pretty much around, I think just before I won my first English title, she was with me. And, I was working a full-time job. So I was a truck mechanic doing 10 hours a day, 60 hours a week. And then obviously the security company kept me busy at night. So I was working a 10-hour day, 7 till 5, going to the gym, training for 4.5 hours. And then it'd be home, quick shower, bite to eat, back out, working 10, 11 p.m. till 3 a.m. in the morning. And then back to bed, 3-4 hours sleep a night, and then back up and back to work. And I was doing that 6 days a week. And then on Sundays, it would just be a full sort of sleep recovery day. I couldn't even open my eyes. That Sunday was like a recovery day to recover from the week, just so I can go back on Monday morning and do it all again. So it was relentless. Like the amount of hours I put into strongman towards the end. I mean, I did end up in 2015, I ended up quitting my job, selling the door business for the purpose of becoming the world's strongest man. But all those hours that I got back from the work in the doors and the day job, I just put more hours into the strongman. It became I remember a while back, it was quite funny actually. Some kids played knock and run on my house. A few years back, throwing snowballs at my house. And I had the brain power to I saw them coming up the street, and it was happening quite often. So I got my shoes on ready, by the front door with the handle like that, and the snowball hit, boom, got out. Fucking about 20 kids just dispersed. And I managed to catch this little fucker up an alleyway. And I'm finally going to admit this now to your mum. I beat the fuck out of you. And you fucking deserved it. So I beat the fuck out of this little kid. And just to put a statement out, like, if anyone comes near my fucking house again, you're getting fucked up. And his fucking mum managed to get a hold of me on social media and was just slating me online and all this. And, and I said, look, I've got a baby in the house. Your kids are smashing my windows and whatever else. And she put, why don't you try getting a real fucking job, you bum? And I thought, you motherfucker. Like, I'm with the hours I put into strongman. Like, when you actually weigh it up, you're talking 4 to 5 hours of training a day, 4 to 5 hours of recovery, stretching, physio, hot, cold, chirotherapy, shockwave treatments, easily. That's 10 hours there. Then you've got the food, you're eating for 4 or 5 hours a day. If you actually put the fucking hours in, like, and calculated it, I was working three full-time jobs. That's how I saw it. The amount of hours I was putting into this. And then you get some snotty-nosed little twat who just fucking says something like that, and you just fucking blow, like your fucking head blows up.
It's hard for people to relate, to how much time it would take to be the world's strongest man. Did you, at 19, when you were setting out and when you were talking about it, a few years later, did you really understand at 19 what it was going to take, or did you just kind of think you had what it takes?
I thought I had what it takes. I'll never forget my very first world's strongest man, 24 years of age, flying out there. I was so confident, so arrogant. I'm going to win this, at 24. And
it's nice to have that blind confidence, though, right?
It is, until you meet Brian Shaw and Four and Big Z, and then you realize, like, fuck, what have I said? What have I set the target? What have I said? Like the Conor McGregor, you've said it, now you've got to back it up. It didn't really hit home until I went to my first World's Strongest Man, and I realized how big these guys are and how strong I've got to beat these guys. But yeah, the first sort of 19 to 24, I was like, I've got this. It's going to happen. But then it fucking hit home very quick.
What was the change from 24 to 27? You won at 27 or
29?
29.
Yeah,
what was the change there?
So, I quit my job at 26. And then sold the door business at 26, and that's where the change came in. I was coming, I think, 2014, I was the sixth strongest man in the world, so I came sixth. And then, but the thing is, it was such a big margin between the top three and then 4th, 5th, 6th. It was huge. You're talking like 20 points. And then I quit my job, and then 2015, I was the 4th strongest man on the planet, and I think I was only like 8 points off the lead, 8 points off from winning the world's strongest man. And that sort of year, that 1 year of not working full time and putting more emphasis into the strongman just proved that what a difference it made. It closed that gap massively. And then it just carried on from there, really, just kept progressing. I was able to be full time and dedicate myself to it.
Did that maybe just get rid of excuses? Because like you could use that as an excuse, like, oh, Brian Shaw is Brian Shaw because he gets all day to be Brian Shaw, and that guy's that way because he has this and he has that. And then now you put all your chips in, and you're like, well, I don't have that excuse to lean on anymore.
That's a very good point, and that's something that I was a big advocate of in 2017. is that I didn't have a single excuse. I remember walking into 2017, I was so fucking confident I was going to win it. I'd already spent the prize money before I flew out there. I was just so confident. And I remember saying to myself, just before the sort of last event, and I said to my physio, because he flew my physio out with me, and I said, you know what, no matter where I come in this, whether I come first, second, third, 10th or whatever, I know for a fact I'm the only person at the final that didn't have a single excuse. Wherever I was, I couldn't have stood there and said, you know, if I came second and lost by a point, I couldn't have gone, well, I missed a meal 5 weeks ago, or I missed a training session 6 weeks ago. I didn't have, for 1 year solid, I didn't miss a beat, not one fucking beat. And that to me made me that super confident person. And it paid off, you know, because I think if you've got the confidence as well as putting the work ethic in, you've got it.
I've heard from some people that, like, when Brian Shaw won his most recent one, it's like, oh, well, he does it full time. He doesn't have to work. It must be real nice. Must be easy. What was harder, working the 3 jobs or becoming world's strongest man?
Honestly, like in terms of like killing myself, I would say working the 3 jobs with the training was the hardest time in my life. No, I was easily working 100 hours a week. Shit. Easily, and putting training in, you know, a good 20 hours of lifting weights.
Doesn't leave much time for sleep.
Oh my God, I remember looking in the mirror one day and just like the biggest black bags under my eyes.
You're like, I look like shit.
Yeah, big fat mess. I haven't shaved for a month, you know, just like, ugh. And at that start, I looked at it and I thought, I'm going to fucking die. Like literally, like, if I kept saying every night I was coming in from the gym, I was like getting home at like 10 p.m. after my workouts and everything. I'd be like, what's up, baby? Like, I seriously, I think I'm going to kill myself. Like, I just can't take it anymore. And that was every night for like 3 or 4 years. And then the opportunity arose to quit my job. And I was like, fuck it. Like the wife was like, don't do it. Don't do it. You know, you've got bills to pay. You've got to support me and the kids. And I said, I've got to take a chance. So
what was the opportunity? Was it just further sponsorship and stuff like that?
So it was pretty unique, a pretty unique success story, really. I mean, obviously I was working all these hours, absolutely killing myself. And I joined a local gym that had a spa, sort of like a, you know, hydro and steam and sauna, an ice bath. So I joined the gym.
Tanning beds. Yeah. All the stuff you need.
You've got it. Yeah. Joined the gym, and the owner of the gym he owned the gym, and he was scared that I was going to absolutely rip his gym apart. So he asked to meet me before I was allowed to join. So I met the owner of the gym, who happened to be a multi-millionaire, you know, very famous millionaire in the area. Have you seen The Secret Millionaire? They do it in the States.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Where they go undercover. So he did that. He did the UK version of that in the UK, and he brought me in and just, what are your plans? What are you doing in my gym? And I told him, you know, I'm only coming here for the recovery. I'm not going to turn the place upside down. And he said, it's quite fascinating. And he was, he's from Pakistan, and his dad was a strongman in his village. He was like the strongest, like famous in Pakistan. And then he emigrated to the UK with pretty much nothing but an onion barge in his back pocket and became a multi-millionaire. And it was just like a real big success story. And he said, you know, he's only where he is today through the kindness of the UK people, you know, people giving him opportunities, giving him chances in life. And he basically said, I'm going to give you a chance. I'm going to give you an opportunity. Quit your job, and I'm going to back you bills wise. I'm going to pay all your bills, make sure you're funded. And I'm going to give you 5 years. And I looked him in the eye and I said, I'll do it in 3. Shook his hand, and I won it 2.5 years later. So he
paid like your rent or mortgage or whatever.
He gave me enough money to pay my mortgage, pay the bills, give me some money for food, and just said, there you go, off your way. Go and do me proud. And he then became my manager. So he's been my manager ever since, still is now, one of my managers. And within 6 months, he got me a number of sponsorships and was able to, he didn't have to pay me any more money, and just, you know, I'll be your manager and I'll take a cut. And that's the way it works since. So he's done me very proud. That's
amazing. Proud. What would you have to say to somebody who is maybe, like, I think when we're younger, sometimes we're, like you said, like, I'm going to kill myself. I can't take it anymore. What would you say to someone who's younger, who is like waiting for someone to save them? Like, they're hoping for a situation like that. Like, that doesn't normally come along, and it only comes along to those that are not even seeking it. Like, you weren't really necessarily looking for that. No. You were just working your face off, right?
Yeah. I think that's the key. You know, if you keep your head down, work hard, then things do come your way. It won't necessarily be in the form of a millionaire, but it could be in the form of a protein company or a drinks company, right. Or, you know, it could be anything to do with the sport. You know, someone just wants to back you. But once I signed with my manager, the deals that came in, you know, I was earning, I don't know, US, like 60, 70,000 US a year, you know, not a very, very good paid job. And then he doubled that within 6 months of me quitting my job. So I was doing 0 hours and earning double the money pretty much. And it just went up and up and up from there. I can just put it down to being yourself, you know, having a personality, I think, is what took me a long way in the sport. You get a lot of guys that, you know, win big competitions and well, I mean, there's 2 people from the UK, Jamie Reeves and Gary Taylor, both won the World's Strongest Man and both went back to full-time jobs afterwards. And it's like, I can't be that person. You know, you've got to win a title and utilize it. And I found that having a brand gave me all these opportunities. And now, you know, we're talking 3 years after I won the World's Strongest Man, I'm still riding that wave harder than anyone. You know, I'm fully on top of it on a surfboard. All money's going underneath me. It's brilliant, you know. But yeah, it's having a personality, I think, is what separated me from the rest. Being a people person as well. You know, always giving back to the fans, always trying to respond to people. You know, anyone asks for a picture, you've got to do it. You know, anyone asks for an autograph, you've got to do it. I think it was the brand that separated me from the rest. You know, the Beast. Arnold called me the Beast in 2015 in Melbourne, and that was it. I was the Beast then. That was the brand.
I think the chip on your shoulder maybe has been removed as well, like from winning World's Strongest Man and from doing 1100. Was it just like, oh man, now I can like not be such a dick to people? Like, I don't know if you were a dick before.
Yeah. No, I was.
I would imagine that you would be, right? Like, at least a little bit to some people, right?
You have to be. You have to be. You know, especially the other athletes. I was an absolute twat. Martin's Lissis said to me the other week, the first time I ever met him at Worlds, I think it was 15 or 16. Apparently, I walked up to him, slapped him on the back. I was like, "What are you doing here? Are you doing the kit or are you competing?" And he's just like, "You motherfucker!" like you just proper getting in people's head all the time, you know, pulling tricks on Brian, pulling tricks on Big C, just being that cheeky character, really, just getting in their heads, but being funny with it. I think was the key, you know, not taking it too seriously. I've had some good fun over the years. I wound a lot of people up.
When we had you on the phone, I think like a year ago, and it was right after you had pulled your deadlift.
Yeah.
I had asked you, I'm like, man, if somebody chips it, they just barely beat you. You didn't say that you would come back, or maybe you did. You said it was a maybe. It was a hard decision for you to make at that time when I asked you. Is that decision way easier now that you're a little bit further removed from it?
Oh, God, yeah. You know, if someone was to come and pull 501 kilo, good luck to them.
Yeah.
You know, it's fair play. You know, if they can do it, I know what it takes. And I'll be the first man to come up and shake the hand. I will, because I know what it takes. What I will say is that the world record went up by 1 kilo a year for the best part of 40 years. Yeah. And then in one day, I added 37 kilos to that. So I did something special. I did something real special.
That would be like somebody running 8 seconds in the 100 meter. I mean,
exactly. About Usain
Bolt.
Bolt.
It in perspective, right? Someone all of a sudden out of nowhere runs fucking 8 seconds.
Yes. It would be like Usain Bolt knocking 0.8 off his world record, pretty much, yeah. And I just feel like, you know, if someone were to come and break it by 1 kilo, it's a bit catty, you know? It's like, if you're going to break it like a man.
Right.
But, you know, I can't be that naive enough to say that nobody's ever going to break it, because I believe there are people out there that can break it. I believe Thor can break it. Has he got the genitalia to go out and actually get it done? We'll see. You know, we'll see.
It sounds like to me that you're a believer in like the law of attraction. Like you put it out there that you were gonna win the World's Strongest Man, and then all these things kind of happened to you later on that I think got attracted to you because of what you were putting out in the universe.
Yeah.
Even like the millionaire coming and kind of helping you out. So do you kind of live your life that way?
Yeah, I kind of do. You know, I set goals very vocally. You know, whether it be internal with friends in the gym or whatever, or family. But I'm a very vocal person. You know, if I say, you know, like now I'm chasing Hollywood, I'm gonna get to the movies, I'm gonna do the acting, to get in the TV side of things, and it's happening. You know, and I remember, you know, when I quit the World's Strongest Man, you know, a lot of sort of like the organizer, what are you gonna do now? Well, you know what, I feel like following in the footsteps of Arnold and going chasing a bit of Hollywood. You know, getting into movies, and I won't name names, but somebody apparently burst out laughing at that comment, and they were corrected very quickly. It's like, you know, Eddie Hall, you know, he's set to become the world's strongest man. He said, you know, and you have to work fucking hard for that. It isn't handed to you. And he will do exactly the same going into the acting world. And they're completely right. You know, I've been doing acting lessons now for the best part of 3 years. I've landed 2 TV shows, one of them coming onto a second season, landed a lead role in a film. I'm doing a huge production documentary with Arnold Schwarzenegger, other bits and bobs in Hollywood as well that I can't sort of talk about. So it's happening, you know, and I was, again, very vocal about it. And like the Conor McGregor, if you say something, then fucking back it up. Otherwise, you look like that dickhead.
Any of this come from your childhood or anything like that, or like where, like did you have good parents that allowed you to kind of dream, or like where did some of this come from? You think?
I actually think the opposite. I think my parents were actually very negative. You know, I said I was going to be the world's strongest man when I was 5 years old, and they just burst out laughing, literally. And it's subconsciously I remember that. I don't blame them. You know, it's all jokes and giggles, but subconsciously I remembered that. And it's stuck in the back of mind, you know, growing up into being an adult. My brothers as well, you know, having 2 older brothers, I think was a huge thing that made me competitive. You know, like they started with the swimming. I've got to beat my brothers at swimming. Mm-hmm. Then I surpassed them in the swimming, and they were replaced with the Michael Phelps, the Ian Thorpes. You know, then I've got to beat them. And when the swimming sort of went to shit, those big brothers then became Brian Shaw and Half4 and Big Z. So I've always sort of just like replaced that competitive monster really, and just kept tracing something. And now, believe it or not, you know, my competitors now are the, you know, sort of the Arnold Schwarzeneggers, the Sylvester Stallones, the Rocks.
Maybe entrepreneurs, stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, business for me is booming right now. You know, I've got God knows how many businesses, and they're all doing very well. And you know, I've just signed to do the Arnold Classic UK at the NEC, and one of the biggest expos in the country with Arnold Schwarzenegger in 2021. So, I mean, you know, 50-50 business owner with Arnold Schwarzenegger, that is something I thought I would never say, you know, as a 5-year-old kid.
It's weird, right?
Watching the Terminator, you know, watching Arnie walk in butt naked, kick the shit out of 20 outlaws, 5-year-old kid draw on the floor, and it's like now I'm in business with the guy. And it really is surreal, like very sort of, very weird. Very weird.
But as far as everything goes with acting, you said you started 3 years ago, so that means you started, like, was it right after you won, or? Pretty
much, yeah. So within, I think, 3 months after I won the World's Strongest Man, I seeked out an acting coach and been doing acting lessons.
And that was like in the back of your head before that too, I'm assuming?
Pretty much. I mean, Arnold put it in perspective for me. You know, you've got to know when your time's up. You know, you won the World's Strongest Man. That was my target. And for me, other than winning it 6 times, what else can you do with the sport? You know, if you win it 2 times, does anyone give a shit? Let's be honest with ourselves. Like Brian Shaw's, I mean, fair play. Brian's, you know, phenomenal athlete. He's won the World's Strongest Man 4 times. But I don't think, for me, I think he could have won it the once and then rode that wave and kept going up and up and up, and he could have become a huge superstar in the States. Absolutely huge. You know, he should be presenting the Super Bowl. He should be out there, you know, in movies. And he's not, because he's kept in the strongman game. Strongman's great, you know, it's very addictive.
But you're trapped.
You are, yeah. It's an addictive sport. You are trapped. But Arnold put it, I was speaking to Arnold last night. He says, you've got to have your brain switched on. You know, you can, like he did the Mr. Olympia, and then you've got to flip the switch. You've got to change your channel. You know, you've got to put all that energy into something else, because you can't be Mr. Olympia for the rest of your life. You've got to know when your time's up and ride the wave somewhere else.
I love what you're saying here. I see so many people get trapped. We see it in all strength sports and bodybuilding and stuff too. Where
Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah, the guys get trapped in there for too long, and you did a great job knowing when to switch gears from swimming, then knowing, you know, when to switch gears from strongman, and now you're doing acting and stuff like that. So I think that's great. What is the most challenging thing about acting? I mean, it's fucking not easy, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people think it's easy. You know, people think you just...
That guy's a shitty actor, and they don't really even know what they're saying,
God,
right?
yeah. I mean, people just think you're reading a script off a screen. No, man. You know, it's... you've got to learn body language. You've got to learn how to release your emotions. Acting for me is about reacting. So it's so easy to learn a script and me and you sit here and just read lines to each other. But a good actor will react. So you'll say something to me and I will process that.
Right.
And I'll react in my way. If you're just reading lines back, that makes you a bad actor. It's about reacting. Acting is, and that's what I found. That's the number one tip I can give anyone in the acting world. It's react to what you hear. Don't just repeat what you know is coming out already.
Do you kind of watch and study people, like not even necessarily actors, but like if you watch the way people react in real life to certain things, and you can apply that into acting, like maybe you just notice how someone reacts to a text message or something, and then you can kind of pull. Like I recognize a lot of that stuff. I'm not really into like acting or whatever, but I am into film. I love watching movies and stuff like that. So I'll recognize that in a person, or sometimes when someone is a real character and they emphasize stuff a lot. I'm like, you couldn't pay or you couldn't train someone to act the way that guy's acting right now.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I mean, one of the hardest scenes I've done with my acting coach so far was pretending to be a father whose wife just had a baby and she was dying of cancer, and she was in hospital while she was sort of registering the name, you know, the child. And I had to sort of hug this pillow.
Just hold the mic up a little bit more.
I had to hug this pillow.
The biceps are cramping up.
And sort of pretend I had a baby in my arms and have a conversation with a nurse of like how my wife's dying of cancer and, you know, this is little Timmy. And you know, to actually fake cry and sort of nail that scene off was a big step for me, you know, releasing emotion. That was probably one of the hardest things I've had to do, is like on camera sort of release emotion and cry on cue. It was really tough, but I feel like, you know, after nearly 3 years of it, I'm getting there. You know, I'm sort of getting to the point where it's all coming together now.
What about the opposite? Maybe like a script asks you to like to start singing or something where you're like, fuck, I'm embarrassed to do this.
I think if that came about, then, you know, like I do with anything, I'd take it seriously. I'd go hire a singing coach and get to it.
Oh, shit.
You know, just give it your best shot.
Yeah.
The big guys, you know, they always get like killed off early and stuff. Like do you have your limitations on like what you would accept as like a role? You know, like sometimes they make fun of the big guy. You come into the room and everyone thinks you're going to like kick everyone's ass and you like slip on a fucking banana peel.
You know what? That's quite funny. I mean, I'm good pals with a guy called Martin Ford. Have you heard of seeing him?
I've heard the name before. Yeah.
And he's just landed a big part in the new Fast and Furious franchise, sort of like one of these sort of corporals working alongside and beating the shit out of people. And me and him both went for a part in a film not so long ago. And he told me, so I've just auditioned for this part in this film, said the name. And I was like, all right, I've gone for the same. I said, it's not that gay soldier, is it? And he's like, and he went, yeah, it is. And basically,
here, wear these.
Yeah. So basically, it was playing the part of this soldier that like sucked off of a soldier to like, get what he wanted and all. And I was just like, it was like, would you have done it? And he's like, yeah, fuck it. you get what you're given.
Like that role wouldn't be that big of a stretch for me. I'll try it out.
But yeah, I think you've just got to take a bit of a relaxed approach to the acting side. You know, if the producer wants you to go on set and get bummed, then be prepared.
You know, I'm curious about this because in that video you talked about in terms of the 1100 pool, you hired a psychiatrist who helped you visualize something. I don't know exactly what it was because you were kind of vague on exactly what you had to go to, but having to force yourself to do that, does that help at all with where you're trying to go right now in acting at all? Do you use that type of?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's, I mean, to channel into sort of memories and even make memories up to change your emotions is something that I learned during the strongman game, you know, and in training as well. You know, I could be there with my training partners, joking, giggling, you know, taking the piss, talking about birds, and then flip that. Literally, it'd be like, right, 400 kilo on the bar, boom, boom, boom. And then back in the room, and it's like, oh, that was a good laugh, you know. It's that you learn that with strongman. You've got to be able to flick your emotions very, very quickly, and I think that's why I found acting quite easy in that respect because I've kind of been doing it my whole fucking life with strongman. You know, walking into the arena, it's not Eddie Hall walking out, it's the Beast. And, you know, you turn into this arrogant, sort of very confident monster that struts around showing off his bollocks and, you know, swaying like John Wayne, you know, doing the cutthroat symbols to 4 and, you know, doing all that kind of stuff. That is acting, you know, in the arenas, that is acting. And it's very fun to sort of transfer that over actually onto a camera and, you know, in scenes.
Yeah. Anything ever happen with wrestling, like pro wrestling? They ever approach you, Vince McMahon or anybody like that? Triple H?
So, I mean, after I won the World's Strongest Man, there was some conversations, but it wasn't for me. You know,
a lot of travel, and it's a different world.
You know, the money I'm earning, it's like the wrestling isn't that far above that,
right?
And for the work that you'd have to put in for the wrestling to get that same return,
yeah, it's a lot of work.
It's more. It's way more than people think.
They're great athletes too.
Incredible. Yeah. I've got such admiration for the wrestlers. Like incredible. You know, on the road, best part of 300 days a year, 4 shows a week sometimes. The training, the travel, like fuck that.
Yeah,
fuck that.
It would be absolutely brutal.
Yeah,
I saw a video of you a long time ago, and it was one of the videos where I was like, "Oh shit! Like this guy's coming. Like this guy's gonna fuck people up." And it was you. I think you were doing 400 kilos, and it looked like you were in like a dungeon of some sort. Like you were just like lifting in the corner of this gym, and you did the weight like insanely fast. I don't remember how many reps you did, but you just like. And you just kind of like pumped the reps. Like you didn't even really like lock them out. You just kind of moved them around a bunch and then you locked the last one out and then you dropped it, I think. And then, or you put it down, however you put it down. And I think then you just like laughed like a complete madman. Do you remember that video?
I think I do. I think it was the very first time I pulled 420 kilos. I think that's what you're on about. So like 900 plus pounds.
Right.
And I pulled it for a speed rep. And I think I remember I'd put sort of pause at the top of the lift and just be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Just sort of like, because I knew that was statement. Back then, that was a statement, you know, standing up as fast as you can stand up out of this chair with 420 kilos in your hand. And I just thought, I've got this. So that was pretty much, I think that was maybe a few months before my very first world record attempt against Benny Magnus, the one I dropped. That was a few months before that. And that's when I sort of knew this is my talent, you know, deadlifting. It was something that just became my thing.
And I think before that, I saw you a little smaller, like you were in good shape. I mean, you looked amazing, but I think when I saw the video of you pulling that 920, you were bigger too. And I was like, oh, he's going all the way in. You know, was that around the time that you started doing strongman full time as well?
I think that was just before. So it was actually the weekend I pulled the 461 and dropped it. That was the weekend that I never went back to work because that was my sort of final decider. I was talking with my manager at the time, you know, if and annoying whether to quit my job, take the risk and go and chase this dream. And then it was, you know, I pulled 461 and then given the down signal and then dropped it and was disallowed the lift. And it went from earning sort of 10 grand prize money to nothing.
Oh, shit.
And it was a big kick in the balls, you know, working 100 hours a week and whatever else. And I just thought to myself, why the fuck am I doing this? Why am I killing myself? Why am I working 100 hours a week and, you know, training 20 hours a week just to pay money to go and entertain people? And that was sort of like the flick switch is, do I quit my job and go for this? Or do I quit the strongman and concentrate on my job? And I just thought, I cannot work until I'm 65. I cannot be a Norman. I can't do it. So that was the weekend I thought, fuck it, that's it. I'm quitting my job, sold my door business. And that's the weekend I became a full-time athlete.
I think maybe a lot of people are missing, you know, they hear you talk about the mental game, and we'll jump into that in a second. But I think sometimes when people see someone like yourself and they see you start to reach some of these levels, they're like, oh, that's genetics. It's a combination of genetics, and he just probably trains his face off all the time. He trains his ass off, and he gets in there and just trains like a madman. But you know a lot about training, and who knows better about deadlifting than yourself. How are you able to continually increase your deadlift? Because most people, they'll get to a 600-pound deadlift or 700-pound deadlift, and then it just tapers off. They have a really hard time making progress. How are you able to go from 7 to 8 to 9 through 1,000 through 1,100 through places that no one ever even thought was possible before?
It's a tough one. I mean, Andy Bolton proved the world wrong when he pulled 1,000 pounds, and I think it was just that sort of someone showed me an article once about Andy Bolton, is that before that, I think somebody put £1 million prize money. If anyone ever pulls a £1,000 deadlift in my lifetime, I'll give them £1 million. And that was like a published article. And then when Andy Bolton pulled £1,000, this guy disappeared off the planet Earth, you know? That for me, it was just like that magical number. And I thought to myself, when I started pulling up towards the £1,000 mark, and that was kind of like my limit. You know, I thought the human body can't do more than this. And then another sort of year into the training, and it's like, hang on a minute, I'm speed repping the world record now. You know, I'm standing up with 450 kilo in my hand, again, as fast as you can stand up out of a chair. And I suppose that was it's like Tom Saltman doing the Atlas Stone yesterday. It's just like, he's just setting new standards. Like, where's the limit? You know? And I spoke to Tom after. It's like, you're going to go for £700? He's just like, yeah, fuck it. Yeah, let's do it. You know? It's just, where do you go with these things? I suppose, for me, it's goal setting. It's like, yes, I've always wanted to be the world's strongest man, and I've always chased that, but having little goals on the side helped me progress a lot quicker. And I think the deadlift was one of those. I've hit plateaus like everybody else. You know, I think for years and years and years, I was stuck at 420 kilo. And then
fucking horrible deadlift.
It was shit. But I was stuck on that for probably the best part of 4 years. You know, wouldn't go any higher. And then I took a step back. I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, why can't I progress? There's got to be a reason. Took a step back, sort of just jigged my technique, you know, a little bit. Just, you know, a few feet moving in a little bit.
You just
experimented, yeah. And then it was, again, you know, I started surrounding myself with a decent team, and they explained to me, you know, the fast twitch fibers, the slow twitch fibers, and how that would recruit with the deadlift. And basically, you've got to train those muscles individually. So if you don't train your fast twitch fibers, then how are you ever going to get explosive power? So then I took a step back and started doing speed reps, you know, so sort of doing 50, 60% of my max and just as fast as you can from A to B. And that was just creating that sort of power off the floor. And that's when my deadlift started creeping up mega quick. In 1 year, I went from 420 to 461 in 1 year. And then from there, it took me 2 years to get from 460 to 500.
Do you think you did more in training or did a little bit less in training?
I'd say it was a bit of a weird one, because basically I'd do a week of speed and a week of heavy. And
so you'd flip-flop back and forth.
Yeah. Whereas before, it would just be every single week, come in and watch your max.
Much, yeah.
Every single week, I was coming in and pulling 420 kilo. Every week. But at the time, it was like, that's the best thing you can do to get strong. But then, no, it's not. You know, I learned that the human body cannot recover from a maximal deadlift within 10 days. So every 7 days, I was
especially for your strength level and size.
Yes. So every 7 days I was going back in and just ripping myself, almost going backwards sometimes. And then I realized that I've got to, that's why the slow twitch and fast twitch came in. So 1 week I would train super, super heavy, sort of training the slow twitch fibers. And then the next week it'd be the speed reps, training the fast twitch fibers. So whilst one's working, the other's resting. And that's how I treated it. I treated the fast twitch and slow twitch fibers as two totally different muscles. It's almost like having two sets of hamstrings. That's how I envisioned it. Like, this one's doing fast twitch, that one's doing slow twitch, and I'd train one week and 1 week the other.
Do you think when people ask you about sets and reps and kind of the nuance stuff, that they're maybe missing the bigger picture? You know, they ask you because I get questions like that a lot. You know, people will say, they're like, hey man, I got a question for you. And I always think it's going to be some cool life question. I can help them get out of a jam or something. And they're like, I'm really struggling with my bench. I can't lock out shit, you know? And I'm like, oh my God. You know, I kind of think they're sometimes missing the bigger picture. Do you kind of feel that way sometimes?
Yeah, I think people don't quite like I was explaining to you, you know, it's breaking it down. And I think that's what you got to do sometimes. If you're stuck in a rut, take a step back and don't be so arrogant. You know, everyone can learn. Even me now, I'm still learning new ways to train and, you know, improve myself. And I think people get into this sort of stigma of, I've learned it, now I know the best, and I'm just going to stick with this. No one's too big not to learn something new. And I think that's the key, is take a step back and be willing to learn new things and try different things. If I didn't have that attitude of trial and error, of like willing to try different things, then I would never have done the 500 and never won the World's Strongest Man. If I'd have kept coming in every week and doing 420, 420, 420 for 20, my max would probably still be 420.
Along with that speed work, was there anything else you added to your training? You said you started training smaller muscle groups. Was it by doing speed work, or is it by adding in different types of movements?
I would say I alternated my squat as well. So 1 week I would sort of do a wide stance squat and then narrow stance squat. 1 week would be safety bar, 1 week would be normal bar. 1 week would be leg press, 1 week would be hack squat. So I think it was, for me, and again, it was like training like the inner and outer of your quad. So every week I was doing like super heavy squats. Like every single week I was coming in and doing 360 kilos squats. I don't know what that is in pounds.
A lot.
750 something.
Yeah.
I think it's more 800. I don't know.
Closer to 8, yeah.
Yeah. And every single week, I was coming in every single week and doing 8 reps with 800 pounds. Raw, like no knee straps, squidgy trainers, no belt. Just doing that every single week.
Jesus.
And then it was like, again, like take a step back, you've got to switch it up. So then that became, I would do 8 reps with 800 on the normal squat. And then the next week it would be 6 reps of 800 on the safety bar squat. And I saw that and I felt the difference. Like 1 week the outer quad would hurt and then the next week the inner quad would hurt. And then I got it in my head, it's the same as the deadlift. It's like training 2 different muscles. And again, it's that 10 days concept. Your body cannot recover from a heavy, heavy lift in 10 days. That's the fact. So you have to switch it up. You have to train in or outer, whatever, fast twitch, slow twitch.
Do you remember what your calorie intake was during this time?
Oh, fucking hell. I mean, I never actually sort of wrote it down as such. I just ate whatever I want. Easily. I mean, very easily 12,000 calories a day. That's like no problem. Some days 14, 15,000. It was just, but that was a full-time job, getting the food, and fucking expensive as well.
I know you talked about this quite a bit, but let's kind of shift gears into talking about that mindset that made you a champion and the mindset that eventually took you to that 1,100 pounds. Because as you were saying, it was way, well above previous records and stuff. So how, hiring a sports psychologist, I believe that's what you did, right? And, and in doing that, did that like unlock some crazy potential that you didn't have access to before?
I think it gave me the sort of capability to sort of have a bit more of a flick switch. I mean, everyone's got a flick switch. You could be in the gym joking around, training with your pals, and then, you're doing a max bench. And everyone's got that flick switch. Like, right, let's get serious now, boys. Everyone shuts up. Everyone, egging you on. And I was just able to add onto that flick switch. I think that, when that referee whistle blows and he's like, right, go ahead, do your max lift, or, you're running with weights or whatever, your adrenaline pumps, you're not thinking about anything else. You're just thinking about those weights, nothing else. But there's ways to add to that. I could turn that weight into my child, and I've got to lift that weight off my child in order to save my child. And those are the sort of things that, you'd be getting in my head walking into lifts. I've got to pull this bus as fast as I possibly can because my kids were under the wheels or whatever, It was just little tricks of the mind like that. I mean, the deadlift was a special one. I managed to, again, I don't want to get too far into that because I'll get really upset, but create a scenario in my head where someone was doing something to my kids and it just lit me up. Like I'll never forget this. Is like when I pulled the 500, and I remember staring at the referee and just sort of twisting my eye. And I just turned the referee into this fucking devil. And I just remember staring at him, and you're that angry. Like there was no human on that planet that could have stopped me from fucking killing that guy if I wanted to that day. Like I would have plowed through 200 policemen. I was fucking raged. And I just managed to get myself so wound up, and then it's like, boom, right, you're the fucking devil, and strap onto that devil and rip that fucker up. And that was a very weird and unique thing for me to do, but to master that was fucking hard, like, because it's not something you can do very often.
Oh, it's really weird because you can put yourself in a really weird spot. Like you were saying, you get upset.
Yeah.
I've done that before where I've made myself like hysterical. Like I almost couldn't breathe
Yes.
And I didn't even fucking do anything yet, you know, because I got myself so wound up, or I even got myself to like cry.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit, like that's whatever I touched on right there. That's not good.
Yeah.
I need to fucking back out of this.
Yeah. You
take it too far sometimes.
That's the thing. It's, if you think about the wrong things, then that can have a very detrimental effect on your lifting. If you're walking into a deadlift thinking about flowers and fucking teddy bears, then you're not going to do very well. If you're thinking about killing 200 people in a fight, then you're going to do all right.
So when you were like having to practice this up to the 1100, was it more, I guess, severe when you actually did that lift? Because you practiced it, so I'm guessing you practiced it during lifts too.
It wasn't. No, it was. So I mean, talking with a psychiatrist, it was very like, right, what makes you angry? You know, what drives you in life? What do you love the most? You know, just sort of digging at things, finding what made me tick. And then we found that tick box. We found something that I found something that I'm majorly, you know, obsessed with, in love with, and that's my kids. You know, they are the number one thing in my life. And then the psychiatrist started touching on little scenarios with them. Well, what if this happened? How would you feel? And I'm like, yeah, I'd kill them. And then you add a bit in, or how would you feel then? And then we got to a scenario, it was just like, where I was just like fucking shaking in anger on a couch, just like, and then the psychiatrist was like, okay, calm down, we found it. There we go. And then it was just like channeling in on that one sort of scenario. Little bits every week when I was doing my deadlifting training, just a little bit, not getting too wound up, but just like, oh, right, okay, here we go. And then as we got closer to the competition, that thought process just got stronger and stronger and stronger. Until on the day, it just became a reality. It became like, when I was lifting that weight, like, you zoom in on my eyes, like, I'm not in that fucking arena. I'm elsewhere. I'm not lifting that weight in my head. I'm lifting something else.
If you would have died from the lift, do you think it would have been worth it? Because like it kind of sounds like you almost did. Like you had blood coming out of your eyeballs and ears and stuff, right? You couldn't see.
Sorry, that's a coronavirus getting. Yeah, it was pretty harsh. You know, the I think it was more so not the actual lift, but the complete arrogance of sort of holding it at the top of the lift and just having a little look around, like, fuck the world, like you're all fucking wrong. Because I mean, as you know, the hate and sort of negativity I got around the 500 was quite high. You know, even the promoters, all the strongmen, no one believed it could be done. So that was a very satisfying moment, standing there at the top of that lift and just smirking to those people, really, just sort of like, fuck you, here it is.
Do you think anybody else will be able to tap into that type of mindset? Like, I'm sure people are capable, but do you see anybody that right now is?
You know what? I don't know. I mean, for me to pull the 500, I mean, I think I've said this many times, is that in the lead up, I couldn't pull above 460 in training. Like, and I didn't really try. I tried a 480 once and failed it. And I was just like, oh, fucking that. It was just bad for my head to do that. So I believe that, you know, the sort of theory that most athletes only have access to 70% of the muscle fibers. That's a fact. Anyone that can tap into that 100% of the muscle fibers, that's the man that's going to do some damage in the world. And I managed to do that. I believe at the time, physically, I was only capable of lifting 470, 475, something like that. And I was able to tap into that sort of side of the brain to release the adrenaline and go to that margin, get 100% muscle fiber recruitment and lift the 500. As anyone, like I believe that 4 is stronger than me right now in deadlift. I do believe that. But it's having that extra edge to really tap into those muscle fibers to go to that 500. Has he got that? I don't know. You know, that's down to him as an athlete. It's a tough thing.
If you didn't have kids, would there have been anything where you could have built up in your mind that would have got you to the same place?
I couldn't really answer that. You know, I don't know. I don't know. Could I have done that with my wife, my mum, my dad, my brothers? I don't know. I don't know how wound up I'd get, but my kids was, a very touchy one. You know, everyone, if you've got children, you'll know what I'm on about. You've got that connection. You know, it's your own blood. You know, you've watched those kids grow up. They are your wife. You know, nothing else matters really.
You ever going to get a real job, or are you going to be a bum?
I'll tell you what, man, I'm going to carry on being a bum for the rest of my life. It feels pretty good.
How do you deal with the negative comments? Because you mentioned that, you know, that comment from that mom kind of bugging you a lot. Sounds like you've utilized a lot of it as positive energy.
Yeah, definitely. You know, any negativity in my life, I'll flip it on its head. You know, if someone says you can't do something, it's like another piece of coal in that fire to make me go out and do it. The 500 kilo was the prime example. You know, it wasn't just the general. I put it on Facebook, and the reaction was actually quite funny. I don't know if you were. It was everywhere. You know, everyone was talking about it, and I would say 95% of the sort of following were like, nah. Talking out of his ass, like, not going to happen. I know for a fact the promoters didn't believe it can be done. All the strongmen believed it couldn't be done. There's not one strongman that said Eddie's going to do that. Not fucking one. Friends and family, you know, I think they put the face on of like, yeah, you can do anything, but I don't think there was anyone that was like stood by my side like, you're going to smash this. There was no one, you know.
Not wife?
No. Damn. But I think, you know, but she'd say it, she would support it, but it was like, no, you know, when you're like, the only person I would say who actually truly sort of backed me was my training partner, Luke Fulbrook. He was there through thick and thin. And I remember I think it was 3 weeks before the 500, and I pulled 450 for a speed rep, and he just like sat in a chair, was just like shaking his head. He's like, mate, you're going to fucking smash that 500. But it took until 3 weeks before for someone to go, you're going to fucking do this. And it meant the most coming from a training partner, because he never blew smoke up my arse. He never once said something that I knew I wasn't capable of doing. And that one comment from him perhaps just gave me that little bit more confidence to sort of walk in, you know, I can do this now.
Look at what you did for the deadlift, you know. If you look at like the last maybe 2-3 years or so, since you hit that record, I think maybe last year there's like 5 or 6 people doing over 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing. You created that. I think that's awesome.
It's definitely raised the bar, literally, in the strongman world. And I mean, it's like 4 now, you know, 4 is going for this 501 kilo deadlift. We wouldn't even be talking about that if it wasn't for me. You know, people would still be thinking it's not possible. Do you know who Roger Bannister is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first man to run a 4-minute mile.
Yeah.
It was, and this is reality. If you Google it, everybody, exactly the same as me. What an idiot. What a dickhead. It's impossible. Like a deluded motherfucker. He did it within 2 months. I think 3 other people did it within 2 years. 50 people.
No, there's high school kids and stuff that do it.
Yeah, exactly. It was just one man that gave the sort of world the belief that it can be done. And I did that with the deadlift. So I made people believe it can be done. And that in turn takes everyone's training up a peg. And as you say, like 1,000-pound deadlift now are just popping up everywhere. It's like the normal. The normal thing is 1,000-pound deadlift in strongman now. And who knows, you know, maybe 10, 20 years from now, maybe 500 kilo will be talked about as a normal thing. You just don't know.
Last we talked, we had a poop story. You know, you had a poop story for us. You said you can't, you know, be deadlifting 900 and 1,000 pounds and 1,100 pounds without having some poop problems here and there, especially with the amount of food that you eat. So do you have any new news on the poop stories?
Not really. I mean, I think it's quite regular. You shit yourself in the leg press. You know, that's quite the norm these days.
I don't know if that is normal. That might be your normal.
I mean, let's be honest, guys. Come on, it does. You know, just the odd Malteser just pops out, and the thing is, when you're on a leg press, that little Malteser turns into like a 200 wiper. You know, because it just goes fuck it. It just gets mushed. Happen? I don't know, man.
It turns into a color crayon.
It turns into like, it goes up your fucking backside and everything. It's not good. But I'm of the belief that in a maximal lift, unless you pass out or shit yourself, then you didn't try hard enough.
You didn't have enough weight on the bar.
Yeah, and I did both. So, just saying.
So you talked about it earlier, how Shaw should have won one and took off. So he's won multiple. Thor's won multiple. You've won one. Because you were the first to pull that deadlift, do you think that you are able to walk away because your legacy is set? Because I think that's why people hang around too long, because they want to be, I won the most, or
they want that something special to say. They want that something special to say.
Yeah,
I've done it. Let's fuck off.
So, do you think you've done enough for your legacy as far as an athlete?
I think so. I think I've become the Roger Bannister of strongman. Literally, you know, I've set the standard now for everyone else to chase.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you remember who the second man to run a 4-minute mile was? And I know I always say this and people kind of know the answer. Americans know the answer more than UK. But who's the second man on the moon? And you might know the answer to that. But 1,000 years from now, are they going to remember the second man on the moon? Are they? Fuck. They're only going to remember Armstrong, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's the reality. And I think that for me, that was that takeaway moment for strongman, was like, I've done it now, you know, I've set the standard of, I believe that deadlift has potentially set me in the stone as one of the, if not the strongest man in history. And if people want to argue that, then come and fucking pull more, you know, come and fucking show me how to do it then.
In kind of finishing up, I know you enjoy your time here in the States. You're here often. But what's something that annoys you about America or Americans? Oh, it's got to be something that chaps your ass. Oh, he's like, where do I start? He's got a whole list. Mm-hmm. He's got it all written out.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Or maybe even what's major differences between where you live and
I think
being
just
American.
The food, really. I mean, the food's better over here. That's it. Simple
yeah, no one knows how to be fatter than us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that honestly, that would be my only sort of difference. Really, would be the food. You know, the people are just as nice and getting about's great. America's got more of a feel free feel to it. You know, I think I was in Florida last year for the World's Strongest Man, riding around on a Harley without a helmet, sunglasses on, music blaring, and that for me, like, you can't do that in the UK, and that for me was proper nice. That was freedom. That was like probably one of the nicest sort of times in my life, is just being on a Harley, riding around Florida on a big 2-liter Harley, and just having a great time. It was brilliant.
That's great. All right. Hey, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything you want to plug? Is there anything you want to try to draw attention to business wise or?
No, I mean, if just follow the YouTube, you know, Eddie Hall the Beast. My website's eddiehallstrongman.com. Just check it out.
It looks like you're having a lot of fun with your YouTube channel. I saw you did some stuff with Steffi Cohen recently. Did you guys deadlift or what was going on
No, we
there?
just had a bit of a shoulder workout.
Yeah.
She's a strong little lass, isn't she?
Yeah.
She fucking is.
Yeah, she's jacked too.
Yeah,
she's ripped.
Yeah, hella impressive.
Andrew, take us out of here.
If you guys want to hit us up, that's at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram. Mine personally is at I am Andrew Z. Please make sure you're following on TikTok and Twitter at MB Power Project. Thank you to everybody that's been rating and reviewing the podcast. Nsima, where are you at?
Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, and Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Mark.
Thank you so much, Mr. Eddie Hall. We really appreciate it. You're a legend in the sport, and you definitely are one of the strongest men to ever walk the face of the earth. I've been a huge fan for a long time, so I really appreciate you pushing that deadlift to 1,100 pounds. And then now we get the excitement of watching everybody else try to gun for it. And you get to see people, you know, hitting 1,000 pounds, and we'll see kind of what happens, and we'll see who gets it. But maybe, as we talked about earlier, we talked about the law of attraction. Maybe you can use the law of attraction in a negative way and just think negative thoughts that no one's ever going to break your record, and just, you know, keep them down.
I think a nice way to end this would be to say, you know, there are people out there that I believe can pull the 500 kilo deadlift, but in my honest opinion, I think they've got more chance of shagging the queen.
There we go. You heard it here. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Catch y'all later.